That's in my mind. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this from. I'm so excited that you're here for us for another episode of Unapologetic Women Share. And today our topic is going to be about the dark night of the soul. And even though we look like we're happy and laughing, and you might think like, well, kind of, isn't that a dark topic for, you guys coming on and laughing? And the answer is yes, because once you go through the dark night of the soul, that's what life is all about, right? Being happy and joyful and, I don't know, loving your life. So you, Donna and Sherry, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Pleasure.
you. Wonderful topic too. It's really important for all of us.
Yeah.
Mm.
And of course, there's, it's you, Donna, you could say the same thing. Nancy, Sherry, thank you for being here. Sherry, you said the same thing. You, Donna, Nancy, thank you for being here because we're all here making this happen. And I'm so excited about it. So anyway, as I was thinking about how to introduce this dark night of the soul, I thought that we could start with explaining what it is, because I think it's a topic or a phrase or a saying that is probably bandied around, but maybe we don't really know what it means. And I will go with my definition and then open it up. You guys share. But a dark night of the soul is something that you are going through or have gone through that you feel like, I'm never going to survive this. I'm never going to get through this. I just don't know how life can go on for me. And I think that when we get to that point in our life where we have a dark night of the soul, that's where so many people just feel like life isn't worth staying around, or it's about life is, it's just time to give up because you just don't see how anything could get better than it is right now at this moment. And I believe all three of us can speak to this, and we're here to tell you, yes, you can. Yes, you can get through that dark night of the soul. So, you, Donna, I can tell that you are like just brimming with something to say. So, share,
Yeah.
share, share.
Yeah. My spiritual teacher said, he says it's not enough to be just happy, happy, happy all the time. He says that when you feel the depths of sadness is when your happiness becomes richer and deeper and more profound. So I think, obviously something's coming up for me. So yeah, I'm really a happy person. I love life.
Yeah,
And
and
I
that's
chose to love life. Been
yeah,
through
you choosing
a
it.
lot of you, but we choose. What should we be, bitter or angry, or should we choose to love life and learn the lessons that are here to learn? And sometimes it's really hard. We don't want to know that about ourselves.
Yeah.
When I read a quote about grief yesterday, and the woman said, you don't learn to get through grief. You learn, and you don't learn to get beyond grief. You learn to let grief be in your heart and to live with it. But I think this dark night of the soul is even in the Bible. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. We are connected to source and to loving. And our loving is what grows us. And I call it the law of blooming. So it's not out there. We can't wait for the stuff out there to make us happy. But we do get to break through and grow into our new selves. And a lot of time that requires going into unknown places and getting triggered
Mm.
by other fears and things that pull us back and disorient us. And that's why we need this kind of a community that you're creating, Nancy.
Thank
Because
you.
when we start disassembling, because we leave in quantum physics, you leave a plateau and you go into the next plateau, there's no stable ground in between. It's this chaos. And what ultimately happens is in quantum physics is you leave and you get into this chaos. Everything that comes into the chaos, once you get to the next plateau, you reorganize around a new center, and it includes everything that you left the old plateau plus everything in the chaos. and it reorganizes around a whole new, and now you emerge like a flower coming up a little bud, and then all of a sudden these beautiful petals and this fragrance. So what I'm saying is, you having this community that we get to talk about this and to support one another through it is more profound than I can tell you. I mean, I literally gave myself a heart attack. It's called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, broken heart syndrome,
Mm.
grief induced. So I'm out the other side. I'm living the best life. I'm having the most fun.
Yeah.
And I don't leave that part of my behind me. I just see, oh my gosh, it's so magical to be in our lives and to claim that. Oh my gosh, I'm alive today. Woohoo! Let's go. What are we up to
Exactly.
now?
Yeah,
So
it truly is when we can share our stories from a place of power instead of a place of pain. It makes all the difference. And as long as we're sharing stories from a place of pain, he did that to me, this happened, so this is the way my life is. We're in that victim mode and we're giving our power away. And I love that you used the passage that you did. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, for I will fear no evil. The thing is, the evil is our thoughts. And I think so many people
Yeah.
think that it's like an evil doer, somebody hiding in the
Entity.
shadows going to come out and pop out and get us. But every fight starts and ends in the mind. So when we give ourselves permission to step into our power, to
yeah,
realize how much power we have, we can then have a conversation with ourselves when we find ourselves in that dark night of the soul to say, okay, I recognize that this is where I am. Now, how long do I want to stay here? Because sometimes we need to sit in that. We need to feel it. We need to have it wash over us in order to come out on the other side.
Mhm, mhm.
yeah.
Great conversation.
Yeah. So go. Sorry.
Well, first I was going to say, Donna, I so appreciate the fact that you come from a such an expressive, from being an actor, and you are so demonstrative. It's so fun to watch you get into the flow of sharing something. So that's the first thing I wanted to say.
Sorry.
There's no quiet with keep sit on your hands with you, Donna, speaking. I love that about you. What I was going to say, and you said it when you said trigger, because I think that's how I relate to this topic, is that something can trigger. I can get triggered by something someone says, and it always goes to a fear, and it's that deep fear. It's something that is, well, I think it's the secrets. In fact, I'm in the process of writing a chapter for a book, and I'm kind of in this topic now, and it's the secrets that we keep that are related to the stories that we think show us in the worst possible light, that would make us unworthy, unlovable, something, not enough. I think those are the things that we hold on to and that get us triggered. And so I know I can get into a place where, and sometimes I do this, it's mind. I don't want to say the word because maybe it's not polite to say the effing, but it's mind effing. How about if I just leave it at that?
Okay.
Right? Where you're
Yeah.
doing it. I do it to myself, and I can make myself like not only cry, but sob, because I can start thinking about the what ifs or the worries. And that's all somehow related. So, and sometimes the trigger is it's something someone said. My husband has said something, and it doesn't, he can't make me feel like I think that's the first thing, is for us to take that phrase out of our vocabulary. You made me feel. No, we are in charge of how we feel. And I think that's not only the realization, it's also the road out of being triggered, out of that place, that dark place, is
Yeah.
to realize that, what it is, to identify it as the fear that it is, the trigger that it is. And I think for me, and I think it's probably true for all of us here, because we do love humor so much, is to soften it, is to lighten it, is to find the humor, is to find the humanness in it. And so when I've been able to do that for myself, it's what I've realized is that I don't stay in a dark place very long. I've had some, horrific things from my childhood that I carry around, that I have done a lot of healing, and every once in a while it pops up again. And it's so I've learned how to sit with that, all those feelings, and that feeling of not feeling enough. And I've from doing that work, and I think it is about starting wherever you are with it, and recognizing that we have that power to decide how we want to feel and to see ourselves in a different light. And then it's so helpful to have, a group, a powwow, or something that can be supportive, so that we can get around other people and be, reminded of being in a loving place, get in a place that will bring light. I think that is so important. I don't think we get out of this when it's really deep. I think we do. I think we do better getting out of that place with a community, with connecting to our community.
I agree. And it's so synchronistic what you said, Sherry, about this chapter that you're writing about secrets, because that is the title of my newest book, Secrets in the Attic.
Mm,
And the thing is, it's about the secrets that we keep,
mhm.
meaning, because in doing this work, I've come to realize that there's only two reasons we keep a secret. One is because something exciting is happening and ooh, we want to keep that hush hush and, keep that excitement going until the secret's allowed to come out. Or two, because either we have shame about what it is that we don't talk about, guilt, remorse, whatever we're feeling. And if we're in that space, when we think about those secrets, they can pull us down, they can pull us under. And when they pull us into that dark night of the soul, and we start thinking about, oh my gosh, I can't talk to anybody about this because they're going to think I'm crazy, or they're going to
Yeah,
think I'm, like a horrible person, or they're going to, I don't know, judge me, whatever it is that we think will happen if we voice this secret.
yeah,
That fear is our worst enemy. And it's not like we have to go out and share to the world, like, oh my God, I got 2 parking tickets in one day. I mean, maybe that's a secret you don't want people to know. But the thing is that, it's about what is the secret that you're keeping, and what is the belief that you have
right.
that's keeping you from speaking up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the story around it. I think it's very common to make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think disclosing our secrets so that somebody else can witness it, so that we can, because I think sometimes hearing ourselves speak it out loud, it minimizes it. It's like that, you know what I mean? Like, it's, as long as it's stuffed and you don't pay attention to it, it just percolates. It's got feelers, in you. So I think it's what I've learned to do is to pay really close attention to how I feel in my gut, in my body. I think our bodies are, and I've said this before here, our bodies are the very best indicator of what's really going on. Our minds are so clever. We can
Yeah.
so easily compartmentalize and shut things down if we will listen to our bodies. And so as soon as I start getting that feeling of, we all know what it is. It doesn't feel good. You start feeling small, or, fearful, or, um, for me, it's honestly, it's a trigger for me to want to go eat something that I, think maybe is not the best thing for me to eat. I have that, connection with food a lot of times, that I'm bringing that out into the light. And so it's about paying attention and then doing something that can counter that. And I think it's not just smoothing over and going and dancing and listening to music and kind of, I think it's you got to have some quiet time to recognize, what is it?
Yeah.
Let's unpack this.
You
Yeah, it's like Abraham says, we're not condone, or we're not suggesting that you put a sticky note over the check engine light in your car.
Mhm.
We're definitely saying address it, but don't feel the fear about it. And if you are feeling the fear, address the fear.
Mhm.
I came up with an acronym for fear, feeling everything, feeling empowerment around everything.
Mm.
That's not a fear. Feeling empowerment, and I don't remember. Anyway, I was like, yeah, what if we could, because anytime everything is duality, right? There's up, down, dark, light, red, whatever. And so when we are in that dark night of the soul, when we can have that conversation with ourselves and say, okay, I'm feeling, we'll just say anger.
Mhm.
So that means there has to be an opposite to anger. And it's that thinking opposite that is really empowering us. And it's that thinking anger that is disempowering us. So when
Mhm.
we're angry at another person or place or experience, meaning, oh, I'll just, childhood, oh, my parents XYZ, and because of that, I'm this. And so as long as we're feeding that story about why we are justified in our anger, we disempower ourselves and keep us in that dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
You can't keep pushing it down. It has to come out, but it has to land somewhere. And what I found is there's times where we can work on it ourselves. I've done tapping, I've done Psych K. The Psych K is spectacular for reprogramming. I call it reprogramming, or getting a new iOS internal operating system, just upgrading it, letting go of the old stuff, because
Yeah.
we can get caught in the problems. We want to go look at the solution. But sometimes you need someone else to hold the field for you, hold the energy field. And when you get this stuff out, it has to land somewhere and people have to go, oh my gosh, yes. And that'll help bring clarity. Because if we're just still wobbling around in our own heads about all of this, sometimes we can't see clearly. So having someone to hold the field when you're down in that deep chaos that you can't see, and having tools to bring yourself,
Mhm.
oh, it can lift off. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh, what was that about? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
different. Oh, I can think now. I know that when I would get triggered, and I grew up that way because I grew up in fear. That was how everything was managed. Yeah, whatever. So I would go into what they called in adult children of alcoholics, they called it instant confusion.
Mm.
All of a sudden I couldn't think. I
Mhm.
literally would go offline and I would come back online a couple of days later and go, oh my gosh, I'm a really intelligent person. But when we get triggered by fear, what happens is our frontal lobe shuts off. And I
Mhm.
didn't realize this until I started really about 8 or 9 years ago. But our frontal lobe will just freezes. And then
Mm-hmm.
we're run by the rest of our brain, like the reticular activating system, with everything like that, to keep us safe. So the key is if we can, when we get triggered by grief or by fear or something, we're going into that space because we're human, that's part of our journey. We want to make sure we have something around us that can hold us as we bloom out of it. Does that make sense?
No,
It
it makes
does, and I
perfect
think
sense.
it is about having tools. I think having an arsenal of tools, whether and it can be a whole bunch of things. It can be a journal, it's of writing positive things. It can be, a particular spiritual prayer or verse. It can be mantras. It can be I am statements. It can be, your vision board. I've made what did I call it? A mind movie, mind
Oh
movie.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Where
wow.
you put basically it's like your mantra, your affirmations to video. That's really fun to do, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things so that you've got, because I agree, I think it's great. I oftentimes will call a friend, and sometimes you can't do that at 2 a.m. So having all of those tools that are really handy. I have affirmations in my phone because I'm never very far away from my phone. So, easy places to get those tools that can remind us of something that is light. Because what
Right.
we're talking about is the darkness. When you are in that place of darkness, you don't see, like what you said, Nancy. I mean, that really gave me chills when you said that, because I know there are times where people really have felt suicidal because they don't see any way out of it. And that's unfortunately when people sometimes will make a decision and then it's, that's kind of final. It's too late then.
Exactly.
So it is so important to have things that can bring the light in.
Yeah.
I think we're eternal beings too. I think we're body, mind, soul continuums, just, emerging into this dimension. So something like suicide does not solve it. You go on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You're still going into the next life carrying it.
go to the next, you're carrying it and then you come back and deal with it again. So why not deal
Mhm,
with it now? But you said some
mhm,
amazing things there. But one thing I know I need this myself, but one of the things I tell everybody, I do put it in my training, you want to have a sacred place for yourself in
mhm,
your home. Sometimes I call it a little oasis
mhm,
or an
mhm,
unthinking chair.
mhm,
You
mhm,
must have a place. And
mhm.
women don't get this. We're running and running and running and taking care of everybody, and we get to play in smiles, and we got to be sure. When you're watching TV with dad, and he says, "Let's go to bed." He goes to bed, and the women stay up and fix everything and clean everything up, and pretty soon they're. So for women, please, you get to have a sacred space in
Mhm,
your
mhm,
house
mhm.
that nobody else sits in, and an energy field comes around there, and you get to sit and meditate and journal and do your tapping or your like whatever it is that you do to come back to center, read your spiritual books, and just get back to what's really important in your connection with source and life itself,
Mhm.
because everything else is just chatter at some point, and
And
we'll pull it this way and that way and interrupt us all the time. So
yeah.
have sacred space for you to regroup, because that's where we refuel from.
Yeah.
You, Donna, that's such a great suggestion, and it made me think about when my girls were little, and they're in their 40s now. I have two daughters, and they're in their 40s, so this was a while ago. But way back when sometimes you just need some minutes to yourself. But as a mom, you might feel like guilty, like, oh my gosh, I'm a mother. Why should I want time away from these, you know, cuties that I love so much more than anything I can even imagine? But that it's calling you, it's like, I just need some space. And it used to crack me up because I didn't understand it until many years later. So I do understand this in hindsight. So if I can save anyone this wondering why it is, but like I would notice that maybe my girls would be, I don't know, watching a movie or something, and I would think, oh, I am going to go in the bathroom and I am just going to sit on the edge of the tub and have some quiet time for me. Just be quiet in there. And any other time, like if I had chosen to go in the kitchen and make something, my girls probably would never have left the couch and left their movie. But I would find that when I would go into the bathroom and sit there, they're like knocking on the door. Mama, Mama, can I come in? Mama. And I used to think, oh, man, I don't get this. Why is it not just me time right now? Why do they have to come in right now? And it took me many years to get this, but the reason that they come knocking on the door at that time is because everything is energy. And at that time, when you're giving yourself that space and that love of you and that connection to source energy, your daughters, your children, they feel that. And because they feel that, they probably might not know what it is, but they're drawn to it. And that's why they're drawn to go seek you out and find
Mhm,
you.
mhm,
So it's knowing that everything is energy and everything is connected. And instead of feeling guilty that you're seeking that solitude, give yourself permission to say, well, I am giving something to myself that is
mhm,
also
mhm,
feeding my
mhm.
children.
Yeah. I
Wow.
love that. And I know we're running out of time, but I want to share something around that because I wish I had known that when I was a mom of young girls, but I missed it too. So, but I had a client with the same kind of a thing. It was like, how do you find that quiet time? I was talking about self-care and how to put self-care in your everyday life. And so this is what we came up with, and it worked really well. I had my client announce that there was a set time of the day that was self-care for
Yeah.
everyone in the family.
Yes.
So at that time, everybody had their own, and I call it a sanctuary, exactly what you were describing, Udana. Everybody had their corner for the family, the kids in this family. They created like a little safe, corner that they put like their favorite blanket and their doll and stuff like that. So everybody had a space in their own in the house. And so she, we talked about this, and so she set a time. Can't remember what time it was. I think it was like in the afternoon, sometime when they came back from school before dinner, that they would all retreat into their sanctuary. And so she got it because her kids were in it, and it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
That's genius.
So, I think when you plan it and you're like, I need this, because what I teach is that we are so much, we have modeled so much of what we learned as women when we were little girls watching our mothers and how they
Right.
took care of themselves. What was their self-care belief and routine? So, this is kind of a multifold. It's like giving the mom a space to have self-care. It's also teaching the children about the importance of self-care.
I,
So it worked so well.
Sherry, it's like when you said that, I have to laugh because I can tell you what my mom's form of self-care was: screaming. I must have been out of my mind. I have 5 kids. What the hell? Can I just have some time to myself? And and so then, and that,
That worked.
well, everyone goes scurrying like, oh my God. But the thing is that it's after the blow up. How do you feel? Do you feel like are you ashamed of yourself? Do you feel guilty? Like
Yeah.
you screamed at everybody? And so, and of course, we didn't work through this, my mom and I, till many years later,
Yeah.
and it took for me to understand like how much this impacted me and that hypervigilance. And because, we're just being silly kids, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's really important for us to practice that self-care that you were talking about, because I think so many of us want to portray, and this goes back to secrets, that everything is, Ozzie and Harriet in our house.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I know I'm dating myself, but we don't want anyone to think that we have these thoughts, that we have these secrets that we keep in our mind, and then we tell ourselves, oh my gosh, if anyone knew what I was really thinking, they would think I am the most horrible wife,
Mhm.
mother, person,
Yeah.
female, whatever. And this
Yeah.
is what it means to be unapologetic. But you can't blow up and be unapologetic. You have to, oh, I don't like to use the word have to, but you want to give yourself a permission to say, okay, I blew up. Now what? And because it's whatever you say after that that's going to impact things, because it's not what happens to you that matters. It's what you do with what happens.
Sure.
And that is about being unapologetic.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, the part about everyone getting together and having their private time, it
Yeah.
it brings up the thought. My nephews and my grandnephews and nieces are the most spectacular family I've ever seen. The girl is now 25. She graduated with honors. She's brilliant. The kids, and they all get along great. So they love coming down and staying at their wild Aunt Udana's. So they all stay in the living room. One of them sleeps outside, because he likes to sleep out in the hammock and stuff. But one day we came back from a busy day with museums and stuff, and I'm taking a nap. And then I wake up and there was nobody there. And I was like, oh, it's quiet. They're all left. Where'd they go? So I just got up and I wandered into the living room. Literally, they were sitting there individually in the living room, all four of them, reading their own books.
Mm-hmm.
Quiet, refueling, just being together, reading. It was astonishing. I had never seen anything like that. So when you say that about, I think that that's memorable, and who's ever watching, you may want to take what Sherry said and have that little downtime. Let them learn how to nurture and refuel themselves.
Yeah.
It gives you time to refuel yourself.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And you know, when another thing, when my daughters were younger, and keep in mind this was before cell phones, so you know, I at one point realized like they would come home from school and I would say, "What did you do today?" Nothing. And it's not that they didn't want to talk to me. It's just that, you know, in their mind, eh, nothing, whatever, you know, it just wasn't important enough to bring up.
Mhm.
But then I noticed that if I would take them out for like ice cream or something where they were contained, right? Because you go out for ice cream and so you're sitting at a table and you're eating and there's no outside influences coming in at you, like if you had been home and, you know, getting into your routine, they would just start sharing,
Mm.
you know, like, oh, today Tommy did blah, 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 blah. And, but as a mom, you know, you have to sit there and go, this is pure gold. I love this. This is just coming out of them because you can't say, tell me more, because then they realize, like, oh, I'm just sharing. But it's when we give ourselves those opportunities to be in the moment that creates the circumstance or
Yeah.
the state of being that we really thrive from. Ladies, this has been such an amazing topic. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing this with me. And for all of you who stay tuned and tuned in and watch the video, please leave us some comments. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what this brought up for you. And if you have any suggestions about something you'd like to hear us talk about going forward, we'd love to hear your comments. In the meantime,
Absolutely.
be unapologetic. Be unapologetic. Ciao for now.
Woo, woo, woo.